TV Rivers in today's edition. My name is Pastor Stephen Uchendu.
Welcome viewers, my name is Uche Okereke.
I'm Mazi. Welcome viewers. In today's edition, we are going to look into the last broadcast of our leader Nnamdi Kanu on 30th of August, when he made mention of the interest of the British in one Nigeria. And I want to bring to our notice by asking this as a question, Reverend, is Nigeria, the zoo, truly an independent nation? And if yes, what is the British interest in one Nigeria?
Well, thank you. Is Nigeria really independent? That question goes to the issue of sovereignty of nations. And when you talk about the sovereignty of nations, you talk about essentially the right of a particular nation to make their own decisions in the light of the interest of her citizens. Now, that goes again back to the reason for political arrangements. When we talk about political arrangements, we are talking about the gathering of people. Why did people come together at some point in the history of humanity to say, okay, let's no longer leave everybody to his own? Because when you look at the ideas of certain thinkers who actually spend their time trying to look at the nature of human activities and their relationship with one another, you come to think about, talk about some thinkers who have been referred to as social contract theorists in the history of thought and human development. These are a group of thinkers who focused on the evolution of governments, the evolution of political arrangements, away from the times in prehistory where men were just, everybody was just living according to his own desires and ways. Everybody just live as you like. One of them, known as Thomas Hobbes, talked about that season of humanity as a time when man was living more like in a jungle. He called it the state of nature, where everybody just live his own. If a man comes your way, you can kill him in order to live. You just go ahead and do that. But then this group of thinkers began to project that men should actually organize themselves in such a way that every society should take care of protecting the interests of their citizens, protecting their property, protecting their lives. So every sovereignty, every state or every nation exists for the people that have agreed to be part of that system. Now, from that background, you now want to know, is Nigeria a sovereign state with regards to our relationship with Britain? Of course, when you look at what had happened to the history of Nigeria, its evolution, how it came about, you will know that you couldn't be talking about Nigeria being an independent state or a sovereign state when actually it is still being controlled by the interests of Britain. And that is one of the things that a lot of people argue, that actually what we got in 1960 was a quasi-independence, that it was not independence as it ought to be. Because then it would mean that the people would have determined how they relate with one another. But you discover that Britain did not allow that. So from the beginning, it was about British interest, British business. Why did we even become Nigeria? That's part of the issue we're having today. We're asking to be allowed, we're insisting we should go back to where we were, the way we organize ourselves. Britain came and imposed the state of affairs called Nigeria on the people that were living for themselves, building their own development and their own civilization, living out their own culture. Why did Britain do that? He did not do it because he loved the Hausa man, because he loved the Fulani man, because he loved the Igbo man, or the Yoruba man, or the German, or the Efik man, or the entire coast of Biafra. No. He did it specifically for his own interest. Remember, the Niger area was a designation for a place of business. That was what it was. And Britain made sure, as the drum of independence across the nations of Africa, colonized Africa, began to build up, they began to concoct ways of still having control. And it is the same reason why we are suffering today. Remember, like our leader pointed out in the last broadcast, we had a very wonderful arrangement at the time that our leader, first leader, our principal leader, Ikemba Odumegwu, proposed the Aburi Accord. Everyone agreed. But as soon as they got to Lagos, Britain interfered and made sure everybody was gathered again and brought together. So I would say that the Niger area, the Niger area, is not truly independent. It is still about British business interest, British economic interest. Whether all of us are killed or all of us kill ourselves does not matter to Britain.
Thank you, Reverend. You're welcome. Mazi, what do you have to say over this particular issue?
Based on what we have seen going on in this contraption, our leader Nnamdi can call it a contraption because it looks like a concussion. You bring left, you bring right, you bring black, you bring white, join it together. Where even the man who plotted the whole evil, Sir Lugat, made it clear that the experiment of this Niger area or Nigeria is like the experiment of water and oil, which cannot even come together or work together as one. So naturally, we, the people of the same entity of Biafrans, the Harimas and the Oduduwas, honestly, are different existing persons altogether who are on their own independence before the coming of Britain, before the coming of the white man to this our territory. Now, if you go through a lot of the incidents that have been happening, starting from the amalgamation up to today, you will come to get it clear that everything, be it good, bad, or ugly, that have been happening in this particular country called Nigeria or Nigeria, the Britain has one role or the other to play. Let us go straight to the clip our leader played about the speech of our most supreme leader, Chief Chukwemeka Odumegwu. He said that he has no problem with Gowon. That even the President Ankara, at the end of the whole dialogue and discussion, asked, does anybody have any area of grudges or grievances? Let him come up so that they will sort it out. And Gowon, who was then popularly known as Jack, said he is very okay and comfortable with the agreement. Dim Chukwemeka was very comfortable that he said that at the end of the Aburi Accord, that he felt that all problems are solved. Only to come back to understand that the ambassadors at Lagos, who were being gathered by this same Britain, all came together. He rejected and capsized that agreement, making the then head of state, General Yakubu Gowon, to stand at the other side of the agreement to say, no, I refuse and I reject, which led to the then Biafra and Nigerian Civil War of 1967-1970, where they ganged up all at the efforts of Britain, who went to bring up all sorts of international allies to gang up against Biafrans and decimated, killed over 5 million persons, children and women. Now, brother, if we should look at all the whole of these things, Go and look at, listen to the clip our leader also played. You will see that the way America, the then Barack Obama's governance, included into the 2015 election, starting from the frame-up of the Chibok girls, starting from the backup, going to the backup of the Boko Haram activities, the way that American government participated. If you go to trace it behind, you will still see that Britain are the masterminders of that same plot. So when you want to talk about independence, honestly, my brother, Nigeria and Nigeria, it has never and will never, we said, will never be independent for a single day. It has never been independent for one single day. Rather, it was an economic concocted project by the Britain, so that they will, out of calculation, keep on balancing their economy in their country, without minding the consequence of the citizens, of the persons within this particular region. So, Reverend, I must tell you, Nigeria has never and will never be independent for one single day.
Yes, thank you, Mazi Chidi. I would like us, let's look at what transpires in Aburi agreement. I hope it will give us more better illustration. Let's just take a look at it.
But at the end of it, I don't want to go because these things are all, the tapes are available, the records are there. In fact, only about 2 weeks ago I saw a set of the records again. The transcripts are available. But we talked about the Nigerian situation, and certainly at the end everybody says, oh, you told them this, you did that. The fact was that our case was so clear that I actually believed at the end of Aburi that the problem was not Gawan, but probably some ambassadors in Lagos who were pressing for something else. Because we understood each other. We agreed on every single point. The drafting was, in fact, my chief secretary with 2 other chief secretaries from the other side. They said, no. And drafted and agreed. We looked at it, we agreed. General Ankara read over the whole report again to us at the end. Asked us if we wanted to amend anything. No. At the end of all that, the position was so good that actually Ankara drove Jack, Gawan and myself to the airport. Jack was sitting on his left, I was sitting on his right. He was in the middle. And in the course of that journey, at a point, General Ankara shook his head and said, oh, thank you. Thank you. If only we can go on like this, everything would be all right. I believe I was the one. As I do now from time to time, I go for the dramatic. Suddenly I picked up Gawan's hand, put it on Ankara's lap, brought my other hand, placed it on it, and I said, General Sir, hold us together, I want to say something. So General Ankara put his hand on top of the 2 hands, and I said, General, I want to assure you that I am totally satisfied with everything we said. I will even go further and say to you something I did not say at the conference, and that is that once we have implemented everything we have said, I would ask you for one favor and one favor only, and that would be to be the one to propose Jack Gawan as a head of state of Nigeria.
Thank you. Based on this particular agreement in Aburi, what is the interest of, or the essence of this particular agreement?
Well, it is obvious. We're talking about the essence of the Aburi Accord. We take a look at the historical background, the countdown to the Aburi Accord. We know what happened at a point that people were expecting that what everyone got excited about on October 1st, 1960, that now Nigeria has gotten independence, and like Zeke promised them in his campaigns in the countdown to independence, that they are all going to enjoy. Everywhere will be, glossy and golden. Well, a few weeks down the line, it began to dawn on people that all was not well with Nigeria and her independence. Before you knew it, you discover that the politicians were on their own, and then came the 1960s revolutionary move by a group of soldiers. Unfortunately, at that point, people rejoiced, but shortly after, they began to label it an Igbo coup. That was the worst point of and disinformation that had ever been levied against the people. The January 1960 coup was not a coup planned by the Igbo at all. It was not an Igbo coup. Young soldiers from different parts of the country. Of course, anyone that reads Ademowega's book, The Five Measures, Why We Struck, we come clearly with the conviction that it was nothing to do with the Igbo as a people. There was a group of young men who felt their country, the way they saw it, was going out of shape. 1960 coup, then the July counter coup. After the disinformation, of course, again, it goes back to Britain. They engineered it, the killing in the north of our people after July coup and all of that. Britain's hand was written all over it. And you recall again that after that coup, in the countdown to the coup of July, when the northern soldiers now organized themselves and had a real Arewa coup, butchered the then head of state, began to kill a whole lot of people, and began the ethnic cleansing that consumed thousands of our people in the north. Gowon had a different coup speech to make from what he later presented to the world. Actually, they were shouting Araba. They intended to break up. Everybody goes to your own area. Then Arewa go, Ududuwa go, Biafra go, and all of that. So they started the issue of breaking up. But then, again, the British intervened. They said to Gowon, you can't go. Stay put. You have gotten everything.
Hold everybody together.
Hold everybody together. Yes. But in holding everybody together, after the first wave of killings, Ojukwu was convinced to send back your people. They went again, a second wave of killings, and the things prevailed, and the other thing was going. It was obvious that Easterners, now Biafrans, were already targeted. It was also obvious that the country as it were was going to pieces. That was what gave out to Aburi. So at Aburi, it was an attempt by the then head of state of Ghana to try to make peace, to try to help hold Nigeria back together. So the essence was averting the war that eventually got underway, and again holding Nigeria together. Then the question is, was that essence acceptable to everyone? Like we saw in the video. Our leader Dean put it clearly that Gowon said, speaking on behalf of those who were on the federal side as it were then, that everything, the whole agreement was okay. Meaning that the whole thing was acceptable, so that there shouldn't be any war and everybody now could be allowed to go back and develop their own area while we have it was more of a confederal arrangement, which should be acceptable, which would have averted the war, which would have now freed everyone to develop according to their own pace. But alas, we now know all what happened. British intervened again. And that very essence was frustrated. It did not matter to them, to Britain, that this thing, once you disrupt this agreement, there was going to be bloodshed, there was going to be killing, and that Nigeria was not going to be tied together. I mean, the disparate people are going to be tied down again. So for me, the essence of a Aburi Accord was one, averting bloodshed, two, releasing people, the different disparate peoples that were jammed together into Nigeria and letting them develop. If that had been allowed, that essence, would have been achieved. There would have been war. Two, by today, nobody was talking about structuring. Nobody was talking about killing one another, because we would have benefited from the development of one another.
Thank you. And Mazi, what do you see over this? Because as Reverend have just said, if that particular if what was made as an agreement in Aburi is implemented, all these particular killings and raping and all the thing that is happening right across the zoo will not be happening. What do you say about that?
Well, I think down here in Biafra land, there is one saying. Our people used to say that whenever two people are fighting, the third person must come to separate. And I believe that was exactly what General Anka did. Looking on, relying on what Reverend Uche has just said now, you will understand that the damage, the disaster was coming. The people saw it. The leadership saw it. The gladiators saw it. All of them were watching at the destruction of the zoo, the Nigerian government, coming up. Like exactly what is happening now. If you watch, there is no restructuring that will be in comparison to that Aburi.
Of course, yes.
Are you getting me?
Yes.
So, going to Aburi for a renegotiation and an agreement was a perfect restructuring for Nigeria by that year, 1966. And remember, because we, the Biafrans, knows the value of life, know the value of oneness, because we Biafrans are Republican in nature. That is the reason why our then Supreme Leader, who was the leader of the Southeastern and the entire Biafran territory, then deemed it fit. What do I do to avert this killing? What do I do to avert all this disaster, all this crisis and clash between me and our Arwa brothers, between me and our Dudua brothers? And he has to run down to our neighboring brother and sister Ghana. General Ankara was a man who came into that accord with a clear mind of what? Of betterness over the life of this different group of persons. Ankara was never and did never at all be sentimental to any single thing about that accord. He was very realistic. He stood at the center of the whole problem. He took it from the east, he took from the west, he took from the north, he took from the south. And at the end, if you watch that clip, you see where our leader, he said something, he said, at the end, General Ankara even asked us, is there anything, I repeated this again, is there anything that anybody has to bring in or remove, so that they will look into it and sanitize it? And I'll tell you honestly, the Aburi Accord, and what we watch on this clip now, posed something before my mind, that these two great leaders, and the then head of state of Nigeria, General Yakubu Gowon, these two leaders came to that accord with a sincere conscience. They came with a sincere and perfect conscience. There is no sentiment, there is no tribalism among the both of them. They were very, very clear in their minds. And he said again, when General Ankara was escorting them to the airport, he was sitting at the center, while Jack Gowon was sitting by the left, him, Chukwuemeka was sitting by the right. Now it was him, Oduku, to show the sincerity in him, that brought his hand, kept his own hand, brought the hand of Jack, keep on top, and asked the general, Ankara, to place his own hand on top of them that he want to say something. He said, if truly at the end we will fulfill all this we said here, I promise you, I will be the person to pronounce Yakubu Gowon the head of state of Nigeria. That is what is called the spirit of sportsmanship when in leadership. Was you have the man who has that spirit of sportsmanship in leadership, I think his people will always rise. And it is that same spirit that led that our leader up to today. We have seen that is still leading our leader Mazi Kanu. That made him that nobody, no man will ever bring him down as far as the restoration of Biafra is concerned. Because Britain, who has been the masterminders of all of these calamities in this contraction called India, has ever suppressed and pushed Biafrans to do what? To do everything possible to see that they decimate and eliminate us from this planet Earth. But by the name of Chukwuemeka, it will never be possible.
Oh, thank you. Mazi, Reverend Uche, based on what you have said and what Mazi Chida have said, if these two people, these three men came together and agree on this particular issue, and at the end, the same thing was not implemented, then their creator, being British, why is it that upon that these two people has a mind to come together to agree in a common thing, to make themselves a very comfortable nation that everyone will display whatever God has given to him or thereabout, then how come that the British are rejoicing over the killings of the innocent in the same country that they created? I don't know how to ask this question. What is their benefit? Are they benefiting anything from the killing of the same contraction in which they created? Because when you create a thing, you make that thing to be healthy. You make that thing to have some influence, and at the same time, what you created, you'll be eating from it. You make it healthy, like the Bible says something about that you don't also the ox that grind the vine. But at this point, Nigeria is not healthy. The economic system of the country is not growing, and still they are sucking from the country and still allowing their citizens to be killed. What brought about that?
Interest. Selfish interest. You see, our leader Nnamdi Kanu had said this a couple of times, that the ordinary British man on the street is a very nice fellow.
Yeah, of course.
But so you must separate the people, the British, from the British
when they
system.
come as a political group,
the system,
the British system.
the system,
yes,
the system. They are all, look, I have said it before. The British do not love the Fulani man. Get that clearly. He does not have any respect for the Hausa man. He has no honor for the Yoruba man.
He's only seeing him as an
Igbo man,
instrument to achieve what he wants.
Yes.
He's seeing the Fulani man as an instrument to achieve his goal.
I pointed this out some time ago in one of our episodes, that anyone who really wants to understand how devious the British system was and still is, should go and read Ambassador John Maman Garba's book, Time Has Come. By the time you are through reading that book, you will discover how Britain, first of all, had to destroy the Fulani mind and the Hausa mind. How they conned them away from seeing any values in education, education. And why were they doing that? They were doing that to make sure that the Arewa leadership under the Fulani remained ever subservient, always consulting with them. Now, there's another thing you notice from that particular book. A friend of mine, a Fulani friend of mine, recommended that book, and by the time I was through reading it, I pitied everyone within this contraption. Do you know why they were going for the so-called constitutional conferences in London? They made sure that the Arewa, led by Sadwana, were never having any real discussion with those from the south. Of course, they have succeeded in, cutting up the south into two, east and west. Yeah. They made sure that they were always disparate. And when they got there, you discover that the North will rarely say anything. It will be Awo and Zik and their camps arguing and scattering one another. But each time they finished and returned, Britain will re-invite the North, other leadership, yes, of Sadwana, to come back. And they were, they said they returned them to now teach them the British way of life. And what is the British way of life? Essentially divide and rule. How to destroy the system just so that you get what you desire. So Britain was never interested, the British system was never interested in how many, you are not a human being to them, you are mere numbers. All that mattered to them was the natural resources here.
The economic benefits.
The economic benefits to them. So when you begin to think about maybe somebody now wanting the betterment of the people from which they are not seeing you.
Let me come in. There is something I want all of you to get very, very clear. You know, it is said that the man who fits you directs and decides your best.
Of course, yes.
Do you understand?
Yes.
Prior before the independence of this country, there is one thing the British did. The British tried to convince and incubate something into our people. That it is they, the Britons, that are taking care of us. It is the British that are feeding our people. That every goodies that our people are benefiting and enjoying was as a result of what is coming from the British. They never let us to know that whatever thing we are enjoying and benefiting comes from our own land. Come from our own self.
Just to support you.
Yes.
There's this story where the other time we were discussing of a late brother, Dr. Ezekiel Isob. Ezekiel Isob told me in 2008, during one of my interviews with him, that he was able to produce a component of vehicles. I forgot whether it's electromagnet or something. And he said as at that time, they were selling those things at UTC at 15 naira. And when he studied because of his researches, he discovered that these things actually, you could produce them with like 2 naira. The materials you need. And by the time you are through, if you add the cost of your labor, the whole thing will come to about
5
naira. And these things were being sold at 15 naira at UTC. And he said when he discovered it, after preparing it, producing a prototype, it was as perfect as the one that UTC, British company, was bringing into the country. And he went to the manager, brand manager to Warren, and showed him this. Said the man was excited beyond measure, thinking that he had gotten something that would bring him promotion. That the company would just, it's so cheap, we will now be selling and making profit. The man took the thing together, joyfully took off for Lagos. By the time he got to Lagos and met his British general manager, they said they lashed the man and told him if he ever talks anything about this product and the person who produced it again, he will be sacked. And Ezekiel told me that the man came back and said, look, my brother, you just want to make it, how some people can be fretful. The man couldn't even read in between the lines to realize the war that was going on. So it is not about building you up, it's about destroying your own ingenuity so that there are more major interests. You serve them. That's why the form of education they even gave to our people then was not an education that will make you independent minded. It's not so that will humanize you. It's a kind of education that will make you always be on your knees.
Listen, Reverend, you can understand something. If you listen to that clip on Sunday, on the 30th, our leader, there is something he drew closer. He said that our brother Michael Opara built one of the fastest growing economy in Africa.
Yes.
He was growing on 40% per day in Africa. But you know what? Because the economy was growing, the British were somewhere monitoring him. They did what? They have no option to destroy that effort. To destroy the effort of that young man. Because they never want anything good from a black man. Talk of less a Biafra. That name, Biafra, I think it gives them the worst sleepless night of their life.
Of course, yes.
That they don't want anything at all that will come out of a Biafra. So when we want to talk about what is this contraction called Nigeria, what is its future, what is the interest of Britain? Britain has no interest about the betterness of this place, this contraction. Rather, the sole interest the British has is how to liquidate Africa in general, not only Nigeria, Africa in general. Even if they are the Francophone countries, go and bring down your eyes and look very well. You will still see an attachment of the Britain close to whatever the Francophone are doing in most of their colonial countries. So I think there is nothing beneficial that is coming out of Britain. That is the reason why our leader, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, said, at the end, they will know the reason why we came to London to study.
Yeah, thank you, Reverend Uche, and thank you, Mazi Chidi. And the same time, on that particular broadcast of our leader, while he goes through the news, he discovered that some governors are lamenting, like the governor of, what is this, Ito? I think so.
No, the governor of Benue State.
Benue State, sorry, thank you.
Samuel Otto.
Thank you.
The governor of Ondo
State.
Somebody,
Thank you.
Yes, they are the people.
They were lamenting over what is happening. This one said, you cannot stop Moteko, you cannot stop a community police. This one said that Meti Allah, if you try here, you will jail you, will prison you, that you are not allowed. And our leader asked a very sensible question that he wants us to look into. Our leader said, how can we compare the governors of Southeast with other governors? Because other governors are somehow coming out, lamenting, voicing out, telling people that what Nigerian government is doing, they are not supposed to fit. But our own Southeast governors are silent. Why are they silent at this moment?
When you want to talk about the governors, you will first of all ask, who are these governors and what are their fundamentals? What is the foundation of the political setting of Nigeria, of this country? First of all, the leading political parties in Nigeria, the APC, the PDP, there is something you ought to observe in them. Once there is the political era, the time for them to campaign and politicize comes up. The first thing that you will hear from them, they will fly to London, go and come back. When they want to hold some crucial meetings, they go down to London and come back. Are you hearing me? Fine. At the end, is Nigeria, is Abuja, is Asorok, is Kanu, Kaduna, Port Harcourt, Iguacha, Aba, wherever, are these countries, these cities not conducive for a Nigerian or a Nigerian to conduct or hold meetings? For political parties to hold meetings, are they not, is it not conducive for them? That is one question you ask. Then you come again. The governors you are talking about, there is a very great difference between a boy and a man. Because our governors from the Biafra land, Southeast and South governors, the Southeast and South governors are always referred as boys, not men. That is the reason why whenever Governor Kozi Bazu intended contesting for governorship post in the zoo, he will first of all buy a trailer load of cow, buy his mother, cut his mother's head, and get whatever thing he wants, and fly straight to Sokoto to go and meet the caliphate. He will move down to Ogun State to go and meet Chief Olusegun Obasanjo. He will go down to Mina to go and meet Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida. So he will go down to again Sokoto to meet the late Shagare or Alhaji Shehu Shagare or even his son. That is the system and the structure of our Southeast leaders. Before you attain any position in the Southeast or South, you will do what? You will go down to the north to take permission. They call it certificate of permission for you to contest from the northerner before you will come down here and start making that noise they call campaign. So now, when you have gone there to sign an agreement to enslave yourself before your slave master and come down here, what do you intend? What do you expect will happen? Before you open your mouth to say anything, you will bear it in your mind that whatever thing you will say must be the script, the script of your slave master, the Fulani man. If you say anything contrary against the Fulani man, you will see the heat immediately. That is the reason why immediately Abakiari died, a sitting governor, Governor Opusodema of Imo State, wept and cried from his two eyes that the worst has happened to him. The man who made him what he is. He never knew when he uttered that statement that the man who made him what he is has demised. And because of that, that he will eulogize him by changing the name of Imo State University to Abakiari University. Now you come to ask, what is the relationship between Abakiari, Fulani man, and Imo State University and Imo State government? But when you look at those our brothers from the Middle Belt and the Southwest, Joe Truwas, before any of their brother comes out for any political interest, campaign, or position, he will do what? He will go to his grassroots, consult his kinsmen. They will endorse him before he will not take off. But our people look for the endorsement from the man, the Fulani man, before going for any political position. So I think that is the reason why they have nothing to say, and they can never say anything. IPOB don't have any reason to look at them to say anything. What we need is to restore Biafra. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
The difference between Southeast governors and their counterparts in the Middle Belt and in the West. It's like comparing a tethered goat with a free roaming, if you may even allow that, a free roaming hyena in the bush. And what do I mean by that? Those who are calling your governors in the Southeast are tied to the stake. The stake of their own making, partly, and the stake of what the Niger area represents. You must realize that when the Fulani man says that the whole of Nigeria is Allah's gift to them, they do not say it in pretense. They say it and mean it. Of course, somebody will want to ask, who is the one now you are referring as making this gift to you? We know it was Britain that created a lopsided structure. Now, but a people who had known themselves and had known their problems have solved their problems halfway.
Yes.
That is the unfortunate thing about the ones, those who are calling, not just governors. Over 90% of those who call politicians from the Southeast, especially, not just the Southeast, when I talk about Southeast, I'm talking about the whole of, majorly the whole of Biafra land. There are a few of them here and there who had shown some sign of hope of being their own minds. But over 90% of them had accepted the shackle that was prepared by Britain. That everybody this way remained a slave. And that is why you cannot hear them speak their own manner. Our leader was talking about in the West, they are forming a Moteco. The same pressure that they experienced, that the people here were given, they gave them pressure. But governors, first of all, the governors, the politicians, most of them came up and agreed and announced to the whole world that they are forming a security outfit for themselves that will secure their area. And when the Fulani government tried to press them down, they went and organized. They discovered that they couldn't do it. They now came up with a new arrangement, a subtle operation. Say, okay, we're going to give you money, everyone run your community police and all of that. But now under the Inspector General place. And what did the Western governors say? One after the other, at least most of them have openly declared that they are not, it's not acceptable to them. That they're not going to take it. But what happened here? First of all, your own people, the killing in the south, in Biafra land, have become so terrible, probably until recently. And that was enough for our governors to come together and do something reasonable. And what did they do? First of all, they have to go to their masters to obtain permission. They now set up a circus, known as a committee. Thank God, at least we are having some humanity in some of our people. Professor Ozorimawala recently resigned from that rot and said, we can't continue with you. I can't continue with you. Because he saw that they're not going anywhere. They're taking instructions. The other, don't talk, don't move. They stop. Go, they go. So you can't have them as governor. They are rather tethered. Someone will say one was being insultive. But they are tethered. They are tied to the state. They cannot move beyond what the one has tied them gives. And that is the more reason our people must realize that until Biafra is restored, we are sinking more and more. Because you see what is going on, everything is getting worse by the day. The class of people you call politicians in the previous generation cannot be compared with what we have today. They suffer the same pressure, but the ones here now are totally surrendered. You cannot compare Chief Sam Bakwe with any of these. He has some measure of resistance. Now there's no resistance whatsoever. So it's unfortunate. It's an unfortunate situation that we find ourselves.
Thank you, viewers. Thank you, Biafrans. Thank you, IPOB, lovers of freedom. I want to use the opportunity to tell our brothers, IPOB and Biafrans, wherever you are, be vigilant, be sober, because our enemies are roaming everywhere right now, looking for who to devour. But by the grace of Chukwabiyama, as our leader has said, they will end up destroying themselves. Don't forget that this is Let's Talk on Biafra TV Rivers. We will get you next in the peace.